Good afternoon. Thank you, President Allen. Today we have a treat with our guest speaker, Josh Hankey. Incidentally, my company is currently working in the final stages of completing one of these revitalization projects for your city, the bond building, located at 100 South Queen Street. And I can say that Josh has been a great partner with the entire project, and we're really excited to see how this project transforms our city. A native of York County, Josh has always committed his life to the service of his community and country. Joining the Army right out of high school, Josh was stationed south of Baltimore, where he witnessed the city go through a major revitalization. As his enlistment ended, he carried that dream and wanted to bring it back home here in New York. He did that in 2009, where he returned and created Susquehanna Renovations, which specializes in the redevelopment and restoration of urban spaces. In 10 years of real estate investment, Josh went from owning a few properties on King Street to spearheading multiple major investment portfolios. Josh believes that our cities and downtown districts are the heart and soul of our greater communities. With this and the growing popularity of urban lifestyle, he holds strongly the fact that we must reinvest in our cities to provide attractive, affordable, and safe places to live, work, and play. On another note, Josh is extremely community-minded. He currently serves on the board of the Salvation Army, the board of the Pennsylvania Arts Experience, and is active in Better York, an active member of Better York. For those who are not familiar with the Pennsylvania Arts Experience, this is a non-profit organization that promotes arts along the scenic river valleys in southeastern Pennsylvania and features pieces from contemporary painters, weavers, printmakers, and workers, among others. Josh Hankey is surely an example of service above self. And with that, I'd like to give him a warm round for our program today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is truly an honor to be here speaking with you today. I'd like to quickly introduce a couple people that are here today. My parents, Lee and Joanne Hankey, also some folks from Royal Square Development, which was Susquehanna Renovations and now is Royal Square Development and Construction. Alex Dwyer, our Director of Retail Development and a partner, and also Dylan Bauer, also a partner and Director of Real Estate Development. Mike Seibel is here today. He's our financial advisor and part of our advisory board. Holly Karski, who is our amazing development coordinator, who we could not live without. And Donalene Wise, our hardest working bookkeeper in the entire world. And Glenn Smith, our attorney, is also here. Thank you all for being here. So, I must be one of the luckiest people on the planet. I was born in the United States, the greatest country in the world. I was born to a middle-class family with wonderful parents that cared about me and were mentors to me. And over time, I've had the privilege of getting to know these fine people, geniuses, titans of industry, people that have more creativity in their pinky finger than I could ever dream of having. And I've been lucky enough to have the good sense to listen to these people, and together we have all pulled together to create an amazing company with a great mission, which is to grow a successful real estate development company as well as revitalize downtown New York City. I grew up in Red Line, about 15 minutes south of here. My experience with New York City as a young person, I remember two things. Coming downtown to visit my grandparents, lived on State Street at the time, and looking at the big Victorian houses on the 700 block of South George Street and wishing that one day I could buy one of those and fix them up. Little did I know what I was getting into. But I was just a kid, and all I really knew was I wanted to get out of Red Line. So at some point, an Army recruiter called me and said, "Hey, if you join the Army, you get to see the world." And I said, "That sounds good, sign me up." So they sent me to Maryland. So it wasn't quite my idea of seeing the world, but it ended up to my advantage. I was stationed at Fort Meade. I was a satellite technician for the Pentagon. I had a great schedule. I worked 12-hour shifts, 3 days on, 3 days off, and I started thinking in my days off about renovating old buildings. So at some point, I started looking for an old house to renovate in Baltimore, and quickly found that I could not afford anything in Baltimore on my E4 salary. So what I ended up doing was buying a multi-unit property that I could renovate and rent out the other units for additional income. That worked out pretty well. I think we had $107,000 in that property. This was in 2000, and it appraised for almost $200,000 when we were finished. So I started thinking to myself, this is something that I should do again, perhaps. And I did. And at some point, I partnered up with my cousin, Shay Thomas, who lived in D.C. at the time, and we started purchasing properties together and started a business renovating multi-unit properties. After I left the military, I moved back here to York, and in 2009, I started Susquehanna Renovations. And the main reason to move back here was to be close to my family. But I quickly started eyeing up old buildings in York City and thinking to myself, the revitalization that I saw in Baltimore, why could that not happen here? And I started asking those questions, and the things that I was hearing over and over again were crime, real estate taxes. And I'd just like to say that when I moved to Baltimore, the crime rate was 5 times the national average. There was a murder 5 times a week on average. York's per capita crime rate is less than half of that, and we were experiencing less than a 25th of the crime that Baltimore was experiencing at that time, and they were able to pull it off. Also, real estate taxes in Baltimore are double what they are in the county. It's the same things here. So, also, every time I would bring friends here from Baltimore, they would say, what a nice little town, that at no point did anyone think to themselves, this is a scary city. And everyone would always say, how can I live here? I want to live here. So, my partners and I decided to make an investment in New York City. And at that time, Kodo had just made a huge investment in New York City and broke the glass ceiling on rental pricing and proved that they could lease properties, apartments for $800 to $1,500 a month. But the problem at that time was that there was nothing else that I would want to live in. Everything else was $350 to $600 a month for apartments downtown. So we decided to shoot for attractive and affordable apartments in the $600 to $900 range. In 2009, we were able to gain control over 4 properties, almost in a row, in the Central Business District on the 100 block of East King Street. That's a picture looking east on King Street from a roof. The block at that time was almost completely vacant, with the exception of Klepper's Key Shop. Most of the buildings were in various degrees of disrepair. With a conservative capital investment, my partners and I were able to improve the 4 buildings that we purchased and actually attract some professional tenants and positively affect the neighborhood. The next property that we purchased was 116 East King Street, which we leased out to 5 college students. This started having art shows. This was the precursor to the Parliament Arts Organization, which was founded by my partner, Alex Dwyer, in 2011. As soon as these art shows started, I knew that this was good. Artists are early adopters. They tend to improve things and create an attraction. I saw this in Baltimore. I worked together with Alex and the Parliament to begin pulling 300 plus people to our gallery shows at the Parliament on First Fridays, the whole way over on East King Street. And before we knew it, artists and other renters were looking for space on the block. We had changed the perception of the neighborhood. And along with the new feel, we needed a new name, and because it was a neighborhood that was surrounded by Duke, King, Princess, and Queen Street, it called the name Royal Square. So the next issue was supply, which is a major issue right now in New York City. With all of these folks that are interested in renting both apartments and space for their business downtown, there are very few apartments and retail spaces that are appealing and affordable. So we set out to fix that problem in Royal Square. We now control over 30 buildings in Royal Square and more than 45 buildings total in New York City. To date, we have upgraded 65 apartments and 17 retail spaces, and we are 95% leased. Right now, we are, as we speak, currently working on another 15 apartments and 10 retail spaces. Royal Square Development and our partners and investors have almost invested a full $10 million in the revitalization of New York City today. This has been working for us because we have been actively working to change public perception through marketing and promotion, and we have been strategically creating a critical mass. Also, we've been providing appealing and affordable houses, spaces that professional people want to rent for both housing and their businesses. This is the Parliament Arts Organization at 116 East King Street. We have the Hive at 126 East King Street, which is an artist collective. And at 124 East King Street, we have the King's Courtyard Collective. These were the first retail spaces that opened in Royal Square. The next thing that was on our mind was Duke Street, because it looked like this. So my partners and I decided we need to get together with the Redevelopment Authority. We spoke with Kevin Schreiber and asked him if we could work together to get control over these properties on Duke Street. They agreed. We also approached a certain city benefactor and asked for a $250,000 grant to help us get control over this building, which is Allison's Bar, was Allison's Bar. It was mostly just a place to get robbed at that time. And also, let's look at this building, which was a 6-unit building that everyone lovingly referred to as the crack house on Duke Street. So as we were working together to get these two buildings under control, I also set out to get the buildings in between them under control, which are these buildings and this building here. So by the end of 2013, we had finally gained control over every single one of these properties, and now the block looks like this. With open signs waving, the green building to the right there, that I have mixed opinions on the colors, is Deviant Smiling John's Rockabilly Barbershop. There is Redo, which is a retail company that was put together by our very own Alex Dwyer and owned by our retail company, Oliver & Company. This is the inside of Redo. It's a vintage and handmade shop. Also this building, which we just finished an in-depth historic restoration of, houses 56 Urban Provisions, which is another creation of Alex Dwyer. It's a cafe, modern-day general store. So, as all this was coming together, there was a sore thumb in the neighborhood still, and that was this building. Bond Janitorial Supply closed in 2010, and so we were staring at this building and saying, we have to do something with this. So we've joined forces with the JDK Group out of Harrisburg. They've been named the #1 catering company in Pennsylvania for several years running. And we are developing a 10,000 square foot wedding and event venue and we were partnered with Wagman on the construction for this building. Also born out of a natural demand from the neighborhood, we were developing a 10,000 square foot co-working and artisan space in this building as well. This is a $1.5 million project that is fully funded and scheduled to open in May. Also, we did not forget about the Market District, and this property is 3941 East Philadelphia Street. We did a full historic restoration on this property as well. Single family house on the left side, which was just spoken about 5 seconds ago. And also on the right hand side, there is a retail space with apartment above. The retail space houses Indigo Blue, which is a really beautiful clothing company. And this property is 2527 North Beaver Street, which we just finished renovations to about 6 months ago. It's 6 market rate apartments and a retail space on the first floor, which houses Foster's Flowers. And if you've not been there, you should definitely check it out. It's a gorgeous flower shop. And Marcy's just really awesome. So, on the heels of this development that's happening in the Market District and this development that's happening in Royal Square, there was something that was very much sticking out as still a problem in New York City. And this is something that, since I've been here in New York City and sitting on the Economic Development Committee with Downtown Inc., has been constantly talked about, and that is Market Street. And this is a picture of Market Street in the 1960s, hustling and bustling with people walking around and buying things. And this is Market Street now. So a year ago, together with Downtown Inc., our company, Royal Square Development, started looking into what it would take to do something about Market Street. We knew that we need to create a critical mass. And in order to create a critical mass, we need to have control over several buildings. So this building, the Redevelopment Authority owned, so we asked them for an option on this building, which we now have. This building was vacant for 20 years at least. The Redevelopment Authority has owned it that entire time. We have a plan to do a new construction piece with this building. We will be adding 21 apartments and 3 retail spaces on the first floor. Also tearing down a portion of the rear and creating a 30 car parks. The next building that was in our sights is the old Zakey's nightclub. We purchased this about 5 months ago. This has been vacant for 7 years. And our plans are to do a large retail space on the first floor, which we already have a letter of intent from an established restaurant in Lancaster that wants to be in this building. And 5 apartments will go above this. And this building, which is very important, right on the corner, across from Holy Ham, the wine room building, has been mostly vacant and falling to pieces since 2007. We literally closed on this building 5 minutes before this meeting. So our plan here is to keep the retail spaces for the most part, complete restoration of the facade and the interior of the building, and 7 apartments on the second floor. So together, we've packaged, oh, I'm sorry, there's one more. This building, the H&R Block building. This is on the east side, right across the street from where we're sitting right now. We see this building as a connector to Royal Square. From walking from the Market District, see this building, and then head to Royal Square. This building has been 90% vacant for the last 5 years. H&R Block is the only retail space that's actually been open in this for any period of time. So we've retained them as a tenant, and we plan to do 10 market rate apartments in this building, and another 4 retail spaces behind H&R Block on Duke Street. So together, all of these properties make up the Market Street Revitalization Project. I actually took a screenshot of my website here so that you know there's a website. It's at marketstreetyork.com, and it's open to the public. So you can go there and see all these things and look at what we're working on. And we'll continue to update that as we work on this project. So the total project includes 43 apartments and 19 retail spaces. Real quick, I'll show you a couple floor plan ideas that have been put together by Murphy and Dinthaver. This is looking at, in the middle building is Woolworth, and we're tearing down the rear 2/3 of the building. The front section would be turned into 3 retail spaces, and also a lobby that would get you to an elevator there on the right-hand side. I do have a little pointer here somewhere. There it is. That'd be the elevator. And this elevator would take you upstairs to the 21 apartments. Of course, there's gated parking as well. And then on the left-hand side, this is the wine room building. There's all these little retail spaces, which we love because that has been what has worked for us so far. Being able to rent out these small retail spaces for the $500 and $600 range really allows for someone who has a new retail concept to get started, and downtown York is the perfect place to do that. We also took a little section of the building and we're going to carve this out into a lobby with a elevator that would take you to the second floor apartments. And this is looking at the second floor of these buildings. So in the middle is Woolworth, and you can see on the second floor we have 7 apartments, and then in wine room to the left we have 7 apartments. Now on the right-hand side, this, I would have liked to have taken this out at this point, but it's still in here. So this is the Rite Aid buildings. And so a little known secret about Rite Aid, there's 2 buildings there. They have been vacant on the top floors for almost 60 years. And it's in perfect shape. It looks like in this building here, it looks like the folks just moved out and left basically a mansion. And it looks like 1940 in there. It's really cool. So we've been in talks with Rite Aid, trying to figure out a way that we could work a deal with them to be able to turn these buildings into apartments as well. And we're going to build our elevator here next to that building so that one day in the future, if we can get that deal together, we can just go right into those buildings. But for now, it sounds like it's probably not going to happen. If anybody in here knows the president of Rite Aid and can connect me, please do. This is an interesting bird's eye view concept of this is the Woolworth building, and this is the 2 additional stories we would build onto it, along with this dog leg piece here. And this would all be over top of parking. This is a deck space that is over top of parking, gated parking. And that's just another view of it. This is right here is Market Street. So the next big question is, what does this all cost? $11.7 million. So we have been talking with Community First Fund about this project for some time. Community First Fund has received in the past an allocation of new market tax credits and hopes to receive an allocation this year. They're in the process of underwriting this project as we speak, and as long as they receive their allocation and everything works out with this project, that should provide $3.7 million in new market tax credit equity. And the way that works is after 7 years, the equity is forgiven, or the credit is forgiven. So that adds a good chunk of money that is very much needed to this project. Also, historic tax credits. We have already done all the part 1s on this project and should be able to get approximately $852,000 in historic tax credits. Also, we're talking with several banks about around $3.5 million for this project. And then, of course, there's a private equity raise. And the way that looks is we need 3.7 almost. To date, Royal Square Development, our partners and our investors have already invested $2 million in this project. Most of that has been spent on just getting control over these properties and doing some of the stabilization work that needed to be done, as well as the architectural plans and those types of things. So we still have a gap, which is $1.7 million. We've been speaking with the Renaissance Fund about a portion of that. The World Square Development is actually working on piecing together a private equity fund. The folks that would be interested in investing in these projects could actually invest in this fund. And also the Community Foundation, the York County Community Foundation, has just created a fund where donations can be made that can actually be put towards these projects to revitalize downtown York. So we've been talking with the Community Foundation about creating a funding presentation, hopefully sometime in March, and we'd like to invite any of you to that presentation. The date's not been set yet, but when it is, we will make sure that you get it. So we are doing this. There are a lot of people out there that are working together. This project, along with One Market Way West, Colorworks project, which I know is underway now because I drove by this morning and saw them demoing things. WECO, Royal Square, York City is going to be an amazing place, and it's going to be soon. But it's going to take all of us to do it. So that concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?